Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
Tape from delivered by the PD. So,
it was right. Raise your dominant hand of youth. Say I, pronounce your name in full and repeat after me.
I, Richard H. Cowan.
I, Elijah Zimmer,
I, Bonnie North,
Do solemnly swear on pain of perjury to discharge the duties of my elected office to the best of my ability with fear or favor toward none, so help me higher power. Anyone know?
yes.
Just one minute.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. All right, thank you, everybody. We're going to go ahead and start with the organizational special meeting of the Rockingham Select Board. It is Tuesday, March the 2nd, 2021. We're a few minutes late due to some technical difficulties. Thank you for your patience as we work through some audio issues. And we are in the lower theater meeting room of the Rockingham Town Hall. You have previously witnessed we have 3 new members of the board who were sworn in, and we will be having some additional activity with them as new members as we get further into this agenda. At this point, we should do a call to order, so we'll go ahead and at least do a roll call so we can make sure who is present. So Sue Hammond, I believe you're present by Zoom.
I'm here, yes. I'll turn on my video.
Thank you, Sue. We have Peter Golick present in the room. We have our new member, Rick Cowan. We have new member, Elijah Zimmer. And we have new member, Bonnie North. So congratulations. Welcome to the meeting. At this point, we'll just run through a couple of quick administrative items, and then we will have a follow-up for your election of officers, and then you can take the meeting from there. So at this point, we do not have any additions to our agenda for any additional routine matters or pressing matters that will require ratification at a future meeting. We had minutes of February 16th, 2021, I believe, Peter and Sue. Right.
We're gonna have to wait.
So we'll have to hold that until we're at a quorum. Do we have any public comment? Shannon is available on Zoom, so if you do want to get recognized, we will try to recognize you and give you an opportunity to speak.
I do not see anyone currently on Zoom.
Okay. All right, seeing as how we have no,
And
oh, I'm sorry.
Jim Mitchell.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes, I just wanted to thank Town Hall, Kathleen Elock. I want to thank Wright and Paul Wojcicki and Denny Hardy for facilitating my being able to vote tonight or this afternoon. You know, I've been very sick. I haven't been able to get out. So I just wanted to thank them because every vote does count. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mitchell, thank you for your comments. We do appreciate that, and we do appreciate people that were helping folks to the polls. It looks like the turnout was, for a cold and windy day, very good. So that's a nice thing to see. With that, we'll go to our regular agenda for business, and at this point, we have to do an election of officers. The first item for the new board is elect a chair.
I'd like to nominate Peter Golick for chair.
So we can take nominations. All right, we have Peter Golick. All right, we have a nomination and a second. Is there any discussion amongst the? Any other? Well, yeah, before we close nominations. Is there any other nominations? All right, seeing none, we do have a motion and a second. So at this point, is there any discussion? Nothing further from anyone? At this point, I'll need a motion from someone for election based on the nomination of Peter Golick for chair.
I'd like to move the vote to nominate, to elect Peter Golick to chair.
All right, thank you very much, Sue, and I think we had Rick also seconded that. So at this point, since it's we probably should do a roll call vote. So I'll start, and again, with no particular order. Bonnie North? Aye, okay, Rick?
Yes.
Elijah?
Yes.
All right, Sue?
Yes.
Okay, and Peter?
Yes.
All right, with that, motion passes. Congratulations, Peter, been elected chair for the select board. So at this point,
Okay.
Peter, you want to take over the agenda?
I will now open the floor for elections for a vice chair. Nominations, please. I'll nominate Sue Hammond.
I would second that nomination.
Are there any other nominations? Move that nominations be closed and move the vote. All those in favor of Sue Hammond as vice chair would say aye.
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 Aye,
Don't
thank
forget
you,
to,
guys.
Yeah, don't forget to turn your mics on when you're talking. I see there's a couple of them that aren't on here. Okay, Sue has been duly elected as the vice chair. I will now open the floor for elections for a clerk of the board. It's generally a name title only. There are sometimes you may have to sign some paperwork, but it's very rare in the number of years I've been on this board. I think this only thing's been signed once or twice. So I will now take nominations for a chair. I mean, a clerk.
I would like to nominate Bonnie North as clerk.
I'll second that.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Hearing none, Bonnie North has been nominated for the position of clerk of the board. Discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of Bonnie North as the clerk of the board would say aye.
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 Bonnie is duly elected as the clerk. Now we'll continue on with the agenda. On number 2 is to appoint a tree warden. I don't know if you people got the email, but we have the current tree warden is Cass Wright, and he has expressed interest to continue in that position. Mr. Wright?
Yes, I would appreciate a furthering of municipal trust.
We can't hear, please.
Hang on, he's going to come to microphone.
I would appreciate a furthering of the municipal trust in allowing me to continue this work. It is work that grows every year in hours spent and importance of purpose. I guess that's all I have to offer. My interest continues, and I can continue to commit the time.
I would like a motion to make an appointment here.
I would so move that Cass Wright be appointed tree warden, reappointed tree warden.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to appoint Cass Wright as the tree warden. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of Cass Wright being appointed as the tree warden would say aye.
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 Next on the agenda is the Animal Control Officer. Once again, Mr. Wright has been the Animal Control Officer and has also expressed interest in continuing in that position. Mr. Wright, you have any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Golick. Same deal, different shape. The hours continue. The job gets bigger. I like to feel that every month that I do it, I do it better and a little bit smarter. It's a job that's easy to ignore when everything goes well. But the animals and the owners of the animals need someone to champion them. Not often, but when they do, it's critical, and that's when I try to be there. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll entertain a motion to appoint a Animal Control Officer.
And I would second that motion.
All right. Motion's been made and seconded to appoint Cass Wright as Animal Control Officer. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor of Cass Wright to be appointed as the Animal Control Officer would say aye.
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 Mr. Wright, you're appointed as Animal Control Officer. Okay.
Select persons, please do not hesitate, as with all citizens, to reach out anytime I can be of service. Thank you again. Thank you for another year of your trust.
Next on the agenda would be the appoint a select board member to review and sign warrants. Usually we have a primary and a secondary in case the primary person that's elected cannot make the to sign the warrants. So I'll take nominations for a board member to review and sign warrants.
I nominate Peter Golick.
I knew you were going to do
Oh,
that.
one or both? You're gonna do them both?
I second that motion. If you're willing to, Peter.
Okay, motion's been made to appoint Peter Golick as the select board member to review and sign warrants. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor of appointing Peter Golick as a select board member to review and sign warrants would say aye.
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 Now we need a second.
I nominate Bonnie North.
All right, that was quick.
You're in town, so.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
that
that's
makes
fine.
sense.
But or Elijah, he's next door sometimes, right?
That's fine. I'm already signing the other whatever, so
All right.
I'll sign
Okay,
this too.
do we have a second?
Rick will second it. Rick Allen.
Nominations were moved and seconded to appoint Bonnie North as a secondary signer of the warrants. Any discussion? Hearing seeing none, all those in favor of Bonnie North to be the secondary signer of warrants would say aye.
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 Okay, number, says 4, but it's number 3 actually. Set time and place of regular board meetings. It's usually the first and third Tuesdays, and it's at 6 p.m. and we need to sign the resolution. I hope someone has one.
We'll get you one. Yeah,
Okay.
Kathleen was not. So,
Does anybody have an option they would like to discuss? Is 6 p.m. fine for everybody? It's generally,
Could suggest to the board to go back to one meeting a month and have the second meeting optional as needed.
if we want to have a business meeting, in the second meeting, we could either do it as a work session, or again, depending upon how you want to, your workload, you can do it as an optional meeting. It's really up to you.
we usually do that in the summer, for the summer months, they have one meeting. It's generally one meeting on June, July, and August. But we certainly can entertain that motion or that suggestion. Does anyone have any comments on that?
Well, I was gonna have to give up my seat on the Wyndham Regional Project Review to do, the first and fourth Tuesdays. First and third. So, I could probably keep my seat if I could just miss, every other month. They meet on the first Tuesday. So, I mean, I don't know, what is the workload? I mean, will things get all backlogged if we're not here?
So I think there will definitely be months where we have to have a second meeting. I just think sometimes we force a second meeting where there's nothing on the agenda that actually needs a motion. Sometimes we would actually need a second meeting, but I think for the most part, a one meeting a month with the option for a second meeting as a special agenda is more than adequate, but that's up to the board, just offering a suggestion. And Sue and Peter would totally know better than I would.
Yeah, I think they know better than us three as well, so.
If we were,
What do you think, Rick?
Ed, do you have a comment?
yeah, if we were to move it to Monday, so Bonnie wouldn't have to, would that make your life easier?
If we moved it to fourth or third Tuesday only,
Mm-hmm.
then I could retain my seat on project review with Wyndham Regional Commission,
Mm-hmm. So third Tuesday would be our primary meeting,
I guess, if that could work.
and a Monday, a first Monday and a third Tuesday, would that work for anybody? That would solve your problem, right?
Yeah, but I think the question here primarily is are we going to do 2 regular meetings a month or one and a second if necessary?
I have a question for the veteran members. Is the workload such that if we only had one meeting a month, will we have a meeting that would last till 10 or 11 at night, or would we, what's
It's quite
That can
possible.
happen.
Yeah.
I
That can
don't
happen.
think it would if we're only meeting on items that are motionable.
Another thing to consider is the staff, because Scott has to be here, Shannon has to be here. I mean, it would make their life easier, I think, not to have to.
Well, don't forget, we have our joint board meetings, which are, with the village as well,
Right,
which are another item for your calendars.
right.
And again, I think there are ways that we can look at maybe having, the one board meeting with the option to have a work session or a more in-depth meeting to discuss specific topics or items. I think sometimes we get a little lost in just the general trying to crank through agendas, and we don't get into some of the detail of some of the things that we want to work on. We've
I'm
talked about
sorry.
capital projects, we've talked about bond and debt, we've talked about, obviously in budget, we talk about things in somewhat detail, but I think during the rest of the year, we lose some of that focus. So it might be an opportunity for us to, hammer a topic that we could do in more depth as opposed to trying to, crank through a larger agenda. I think sometimes we lose a little bit of that. And it gives the board a chance to get a little deeper into some of these items and get a sense of where you are, where you want us to be, and how we can get there. So I have found that to be successful in other places.
Help me understand now. So when you said that you're advocating to only have one meeting a month, but then possibly a work session, which is
Work
different?
session is it's a noticed meeting. It has an agenda, but it typically will be a limited item. So you'll be
Right.
addressing a specific topic or a specific area. And that gives the staff a chance to get into more depth and more detail. It gives the board a chance to get more involved in a
Right.
particular area.
And at a work session, you are not necessarily going to make a decision.
Most of the time, a work session is just that. It's to
Just
flesh
a work
through and
session.
work through a variety of items and questions.
And can that be held on any night of the week? Doesn't have to be,
There's no magic to the first and third Tuesdays. It's really more your pleasure.
but I mean, could we say, all right, could we say the meeting is the third Tuesday? And the work sessions are whenever we can all agree. Can we do that like that?
That seems to make sense.
The problem you run into without having a set meeting is then you end up with a lot of these special meetings that are usually set up out of the blue. And you don't have paperwork in front of you to get stuff done, which is another article we need to discuss later under other business. But it's been a case, in fact, if and the public's usually used to 2 meetings a month. So they're usually looking to tune in on Fact TV on the first and second, first and third Tuesdays. That's why it's out been scheduled that way. But, I can tell you from experience that you end up with a lot of special meetings, and because something will come up and somebody, oh, deadline's tomorrow, we got to have a meeting tonight. And it's, if you know ahead of time that those things are coming up, then they can be easily scheduled into the scheduled meetings. So, there
Right,
are
so-
occasions when an emergency where something comes up that you do need to call a special meeting, but the preference has always been to have 2 meetings scheduled.
Bonnie, what time are your meetings on first Tuesdays?
6.
Okay. And are they an hour?
At least. I mean, it's not crucial. I do hate to give up the seat though, because a lot of decisions have bearing on things taking place in Rockingham.
And do you tend to meet every week, or, I mean, because don't they sometimes
Month.
get canceled? I know the other committees do. I mean, every month.
It's occasionally been canceled when there was no project before the committee. So, I mean, sometimes projects come from all over the region, right? And sometimes there's just no project. When we do project review, we're asked to take a look at somebody's project and decide if we support it or if we can't support it. And if we can't, we say why. If we support a project, it helps it tremendously in terms of grants and even bank financing. If our committee says, we don't really like this project so well, there's probably at least a 90% chance it will not occur because they haven't got the okay of the regional. So it's kind of an important position. But I mean, they'll replace me,
But what if we were to meet a little later? Your meeting was, let's say, at 7:30?
6.
I mean, you're 6.
7.
What if we were to meet at 7:30? Is that too late for people?
Can we just-
It really is kind of too late because you have individual groups and employees and other people coming in.
Yep.
And to start a meeting at 7:30 is relatively
late.
late.
Could
Okay.
we move the meetings to the first and third Wednesday?
That would work for me.
That would be
Yeah.
okay with me.
Staff's fine with whatever day works best for you guys.
Yeah, works fine.
But I mean, if so the decision is to have 2 a month, not take what Scott is
You
suggesting.
can always limit an agenda as opposed to having a full regular meeting. It's just, I find that sometimes we don't have the chance to get into some of the things that we want to get into because we're running through, sort of the regular order. And by the time you've done a couple hours in the room, most people aren't ready for, let's jump in.
But I mean, I've kind of witnessed that myself just by observing, on Zoom.
Right.
So I kind of liked your suggestion, but
It's all of our, the attention span. You can just see people in the room start to
Fade.
fade out.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
if-
that happens.
What if we were to do a meeting on the first Wednesday and an optional work meeting on the third Wednesday?
That works. Because the other thing that we have to pay attention to is there are other meetings that require attendance by select board members. We occasionally have Board of Health responsibility that we do have to meet. Occasionally we have Board of Abatement where we have to meet. So those are sort of also filling out your calendar. Your calendar can get pretty crowded fairly quickly. So we're trying to avoid banging you for 4 or 5 meetings in a month. It can get, it's difficult for folks
Wearing.
to try to get through all that.
So do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I do worry about moving it from Tuesday because people really are so used to that. It's been forever on Tuesday. Not that we have to stick with that. But if we do, I don't mind the idea of a working session because I think we really need to do a lot of forward planning on this board and not just react in the moment. And I think having work sessions will enable us to look more long-term. So I do like that idea, Scott. Maybe do the third Tuesday is our regular meeting, and then have that work meeting on the Wednesday, the first Wednesday.
That sounds like a good compromise.
And then it can move if need be, if people, you know, because it's a work meeting. I mean, I mean, I think you should also schedule it because, and cancel it if there's nothing to work on, as opposed to just occasionally schedule it.
I've always found that in all honesty, Sue, we'll always have an item that we could work on, you know.
Yeah.
Whether it's downtown development or it's grants or it's capital or it's debt. I mean, those are just 4 right there. There's 4 work sessions just in and of those 4 topics. And I haven't even started to poll the new members to see what their interest might be as well for a work session. So
I
fill up a work session calendar pretty quickly.
Mhm.
I agree. And we know we usually had a schedule of what we're supposed to do with every month, and we haven't followed that very closely in years. But I think at least keep one at the meeting of business where we're going to vote on things on a Tuesday, because that's what people are used to. And it's not going to conflict with meetings upstairs, development review or other meetings. I mean, a planning commission or other meetings that happen on Wednesdays.
So we're gonna vote on this or all that?
Yes,
We have to vote on
We
this,
will
yes.
need a motion to set the time and place.
So Sue, will you make that motion?
Yeah, I move that the select board meets, I don't think I have to say a work session, right? Because it could be a actual voting session sometimes on Wednesdays.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I would say I move that the select board meet on the first Wednesday of every month and the third Tuesday of every month. Until we hit we don't do the summer session now, I don't think, right?
And you want the time still at 6?
At 6 p.m.
That work for you, Bonnie?
Yeah.
Do we have a second to that motion?
I second it.
Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
The only caveat I would say at this point,
Mr.
it would
Chairman,
be appreciated if we had the information in front of us rather than having it given to us at that meeting to make a decision. I know tonight we have 2 articles on this agenda, and I don't think anybody's got any information on it. So I would think that would be a caution to whoever's doing these agendas and getting the information together that we have it on a timely manner, at least probably 2 days before the meeting.
Don't you normally get a packet, get a meeting packet?
They have been receiving packets typically the week before. Because of the new board, this week it was a little different.
Yep. And the 2 items, mine is not an action item, it's just more of an informational item for the board. And I don't believe the item that Gary has, do you need a resolution tonight for your item? All right, Gary does need a resolution, so I apologize. Yeah, it's due next Monday. So there was some timeliness on Gary, so I apologize for that.
There's a time limit on that one?
It's a grant deadline on it. Mine is just an update for you just to review.
This is a case of a point of what happens generally, and then all of a sudden you get a special meeting called because at that deadline the next day, as I was mentioning before. We have a motion
I'd
and
like to disagree, Peter. We've had very few special meetings.
We'll try not to do those because it does create problems on people's calendars. I think we'll try to keep the business and keep a routine calendar so we can make sure stuff is out and the board has information.
Isn't there some rule that a packet must be sent some days prior?
It's posting. You have to post agendas.
The agenda, but
There are
not the
places
packet,
that-
right?
that-
we'll take that up under other business as to how you're going to want to deal with your information that you're supposed to get. But
Mr.
right now, I
Chairman.
think we need to move a motion to set the time and place on the first Wednesday and the third Tuesday at 6 p.m. And there's a resolution that will have to be signed. If we don't have one here tonight, we'll have to You gotta bring one to
Well,
next
Kathleen
meeting.
has to do your oath of office since she wasn't able, you have to sign that since she wasn't here. I'll have to do those at all at one sitting, Peter.
So that motion's been made and seconded.
Motion been made and seconded, so all those in favor of having the meetings on the first Wednesday and the third Tuesday at 6 PM, would say aye.
Aye.
I,
All those opposed? Motion passes.
Peter, I think, Mr. Mitchell had wanted to say something.
Mr. Mitchell, I didn't see, I can't see it from over here, but go ahead.
I mean, I would hope now that we have a new board, obviously people want to change, that we need to address problems right here in downtown Bellas Falls. We gave away a hotel for $11,000 in Charles City Park. We have not seen that open. We're in the middle of a COVID crisis. Every business is closed. We need to be doing something rather than just cutting meetings. We need to be having more meetings so that we can get Bellas Falls moving again. Obviously, people voted these fine people in by a landslide. They want change. So don't be cutting meetings. We need to have more meetings and get Bellas Falls moving. Thank you, Peter.
We'll take that into consideration. Thank you for your points, Jim.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay, number 4, we'll move on to the agenda, is we to select the official newspaper of record and an alternate newspaper of record. I believe the official newspaper is the Shopper, and I think the Reformer is the, Brattleboro Reformer is the alternate.
Right, they have to be published, they cannot be just internet.
So could we get a motion to that effect?
I'll move that our papers of record be the Brattleboro Reformer and the Vermont Journal Shopper.
Okay, your Shopper's the official and then alternative for the Reformer.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Do we hear a second?
I'll second that.
Motion been made and seconded to have the official newspaper of record to be the Shopper, and the alternative paper would be the Brattleboro Reformer. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the Shopper and the Brattleboro Reformer as the papers of record would say aye.
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 I,
Aye. So,
that was an I, sorry.
okay. Number 5 on the agenda is adopt policies and procedures. This is,
Chair, before we open that to the floor, could I suggest that since we do have 3 new members and I do have to distribute copies through the clerk, that we hold this item until our next scheduled meeting, which would be that first, actually, this will be the 3rd Tuesday, correct? Will be our next scheduled meeting.
Yep.
So at that point, I can make sure that those are distributed to the new members. They can read them and have a chance to digest those before we ask them to adopt. It seems a little premature, given that they were elected an hour and 15 minutes ago.
okay, sounds good to me.
Thank you. I do appreciate that.
Okay, we'll move on to the Downtown Transportation Fund application and resolution. I guess Mr. Fox is here to plead his case.
Thank you.
Apologize, I missed the piece where a new select board is on tonight, and so you don't have the packet that went out on Thursday, right? You wouldn't have had that. Okay, so basically we have the Bridge Street parking lot, and that's the resolution. The Bridge Street parking lot, which terribly underutilized. People, let's see whether it's some visitors, people that come into our retail shops. During the day, they don't know about the parking lot in terms of being signed well. And in the evening, people don't use it, they don't feel safe. And so taking pictures for this grant application on Bridge Street, even the Bright area where it goes across Bridge Street Bridge, there was a woman walking on the sidewalk in dark clothes the other night, just like 3 nights ago. She was parked in Bridge Street lot. and I sort of couldn't even see her. And in the parking lot itself, it's even worse. And so this grant application asks for a few things. One is the pedestrian scale lighting between the main street and Island Street. So all along Bridge Street, pedestrian scale lighting, instead of like high street lights for vehicles, makes it bright where people are walking so you can see people, human scale. And then in the parking lot, there would be some features, aesthetic features, plantings, benches, whatever it is, landscape design company adding some features that would not interfere with the plowing. We worked with Andy, highway superintendent, to make sure designs. He's made some suggestions of areas that things could be placed in where it wouldn't impair the plowing at all. There's some clean water initiatives that don't require match that would allow us to do some environmentally friendly stormwater treatment for all that impervious surface being right in the canal and the Connecticut River. And asking Green Mountain Power to add some more lights in the parking lot. So there's two things. One, there's, I think it's 3 poles in there that are really tall. There's some LEDs that are pretty bright, but they don't really spread light for much of the parking lot. It's pretty dark in there. And so one would be if Green Mountain Power would add a couple of more poles, and the other would be running some wires under the pavement and having some lighting in the parking lot. So that's the basic nut of it. Is this grant application is to provide 50% of the funds to help us get that parking lot usable again. Whatever signage pieces, wayfinding signs could help with that. And the grant request is going to be in the $150,000 range. So we do have Shannon put $75,000 in match, or I should say the select board did in the budget for the coming year to match grant. So we do have the match funds from the development fund, not raised from taxes. And so that's what this resolution, I didn't make copies. I forgot that you wouldn't have the packets, but I could either pass this around or make some copies now or read it. So it's the resolution for Downtown Transportation Fund grant, whereas the municipality of Rockingham is applying for funding as provided by the state of Vermont fiscal year 2021 Budget Act and may receive an award of funds under said provisions. And whereas the Department of Housing and Community Development may offer a grant agreement to this municipality for said funding, and whereas the municipality has agreed to provide local funds for downtown transportation grant, now therefore be it resolved, 1, that the legislative body of this municipality enters into and agrees to the requirements and obligations of this grant program, including a commitment to match funds of 50% of total project costs, that the Municipal Planning Commission recommends applying for said grant. So the Planning Commission reviewed this last week and they approved it and signed on the grant. And that would be the motion that you would make, and that's basically what we're committing to.
You open for questions, Gary? How many spaces are in that parking lot?
It's between 60 and 70.
Okay, and the signage?
It's not quite 70. It doesn't reach that.
Because a lot of people don't even know it's there, as you mentioned.
Exactly.
How
yes.
are we going to address that?
So we do have. We submitted a couple of weeks ago a Better Connections grant for a transportation master plan for the island and the Under the Hill area. The combination of BIFTA and the chamber is looking at a part of their capital plan is a wayfinding plan. So ideally, the Better Connections grant would have folks that do wayfinding plans included in the master plan. So it would be a well-coordinated effort around all the signage that we want, for the Riverfront Park and Trail System, the Bridge Street parking lot. There's a number of things that there's no good signage for, like we have a kiosk that could have one of those,
Yeah.
you are here, and have
Right.
different way signing. So ideally, if we're awarded the Better Connections grant and can have all that stuff planned by people who do it a lot, if not, it will be happening over time through that group that Bifter and Chamber are working on. And some money in this grant could pay for some of that signage. But the idea is to get that wayfinding signage done correctly. The other piece is that potentially in about a year, the Depot Street Bridge will be out of commission, and the Bellas Falls Garage Building project will be going. So the Bridge Street parking lot would be, most of it is empty overnight right now. So all the people that park in the Waypoint, which is a lot of them, and then there's a few that park in Centennial Lot with overnight permits. So they would have the overnight in Bridge Street, and then during the day, people park in Centennial and Waypoint that work in the downtown. And so they'd be able to park in the Bridge Street lot as well. And like you said, with good signage and communication from the town about the detours and the alternative parking, because it's really, it's maybe only a quarter or a half mile long, right? The distance from Bridge Street lot or Depot Street lot, it's not that far. It's like 1 or 2 city blocks. So it's workable, but just the communication and the knowledge and having Bridge Street safe by then and in good shape would be helpful. That's the goal.
I'd like to make a comment. It's actually a lovely walk from the Waypoint over to that lot.
Yep.
But there have been people living in that little patch of woods. And I know last summer we had a lot of trouble with that.
We did, yes.
Hopefully some lighting would help make that a little less attractive for people to set up a campsite there. And hopefully we could get some better policing down there.
Well, we were working with social services. It's really a tough situation because we have sort of an underground population of people that move in and around some of the train tracks, and we periodically have them sort of in that area. Sometimes they're out at the park and ride at exit 6, and they sort of move with the weather, and sometimes they move from place to place. We try to get them social services. We try to do things to help. Some of these folks have problems, that they need to address that create other problems. So, but I think lighting would help. I think generating additional activity will help, and we'll continue to work and try to, make the place less desirable so that when we do have these kinds of problems, we can hopefully move people along.
That's one reason you don't feel too safe over there.
No, I agree. No, it's a concern. It's no doubt.
Okay. That would be, I think lighting would be a good first step.
Lighting and keeping the brush and the woods cut back. So the rail company was not cutting the brush a lot, and we discovered that they were fine with Sean got a crew out there and cut all the brush way back. So kind of being able to hide in the thick brush and not and darkness and not have a lot of light, like all of those measures. And then having more people and cars and foot traffic discourages living there, so to speak, in the parking lots and on the tracks also. So ideally, just all of this activity will get us to where we want to be.
Yeah, it would help.
And Gary, these would be LED energy efficient lighting, obviously. Will it be downward pointing so we don't have a lot of light pollution?
Yeah, whatever the appropriate current standards are. So BIFTA's design committee, of which Elijah is part of, they participate in the design. The Downtown Transportation Fund is associated with the downtown program, so they require actually the design committee to participate and have input. And certainly Sustainable Rockingham and the energy coordinator from the Conservation Commission definitely would ask everyone for, there'd be, what do you call it? There's a robust public process with all of these design grants.
Okay, thanks.
Rick, you're not wrong. We want to shield some of this light so that there's not spillover light into some of the residences that are above some of the buildings. So there will definitely be a consideration for shielding and trying to make it, as Gary said, more pedestrian appropriate. So the lighting footprint is brighter at the sidewalk and sort of at the pedestrian level, and it's obviously not as
Not
bright
going
above
up.
the fixtures so that it's not shining in people's windows and that sort of thing. So we're sensitive to that.
Great,
So I think we can make that happen.
thank you.
Gary, you mentioned that the $75,000 match was in your budget.
Not that it's in the budget, that it was set aside from the development fund. That it's
Okay.
available to match grants.
Yeah, I thought you meant it was
We'd have to ask Shannon where, I don't know that it
Right.
shows up in the, I did say budget, but I don't know that that's where it shows up because it's from the development fund is where.
Correct. So
Yes.
what'll happen, Peter, what'll happen is if we're successful in our grant, we'll bring you a resolution to appropriate the 75,000 from the development fund for the match at the time, because we'll have a grant agreement, we'll have other requirements that we'll have to go through from the board. So, but that'll be the source. There won't be an additional appropriation required. We'll just have to appropriate it from that fund.
Okay, I just didn't see it in the budget there anywhere. So.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, so it's not in, the development fund is its own fund, and so it's not in the general or cemetery or highway. And it's only displayed as a balance sheet in the town report. So it's a completely separate fund, but we did allocate 75,000 for matching funds this year.
Okay, is there any other further discussion?
I have a question, Gary. As far as the need for this, how many spaces approximately are in the waypoint and the island parking lots?
So the Waypoint one is it's in the 70s. I'm sorry, the Centennial lot is in the 70s, and the Waypoint is around 30.
Okay. And how long do we anticipate that the Canal Street Bridge might be closed?
What
when
would you
it's being
like? Would you like the
reconstructed?
Vermont Department of Transportation estimate or the
How about reality?
reality of it estimate? Which one would you prefer, Elijah? Because I can give you both.
Both would be useful.
The Transportation Department has told us that will be a closure in the neighborhood of 3 to 6 months, roughly. The practical reality of any of these bridge projects is you can multiply most of those estimates by 2. And if they run into any kind of consideration down in that area where you have contamination and other unknowns in that area specifically, you could add additional time. So I figure you're at least 9 months of significant disruption, if not longer,
Yeah.
to be safe. Not,
Yeah, so that could definitely be a substantial disruption to the residents downtown who need a place to park.
We've been talking about this, Gary and I, for a while, because as these projects have becoming, you can see the clustering start to happen, and the concern is you'll need a construction area, obviously, for a large project like the Bellows Falls Garage. You'll need a construction area to support, and a crane to support the Depot Bridge project. And you'll probably have to close Canal Street because of utility relocation and other required work for that bridge project as well. So there's a significant impact on loss of parking. So this really sort of crystallized our thinking as to we have to probably jump on this now and try to mitigate some of that pain that will be coming down the road with some of these additional losses of parking.
Yeah, because I can imagine for the people who live downtown, it's pretty crucial to make sure that they have a place to park while this is going on.
Well, we're also hoping that as businesses reopen and COVID restrictions start to lessen, that one of the flip side benefits of that will be we'll start to see a return of normal traffic patterns. People will be coming down, hopefully more for activities. We're hopeful to get additional programming into our Opera House and all those things impact parking in downtown, as you're well aware. So I think the timing is right to try to do this now.
Okay, we'll need a motion to proceed with the resolution for the downtown transportation grant, an amount of $150,000 with a 50% match of $75,000.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the resolution and sign for downtown transportation fund grant. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Sue?
I,
Okay, coming around, Sue, I don't know how you're gonna get one, maybe they can fax you one.
I've done that before. I can scan a copy. Sue's been good.
yep, that's fine.
Get it back, which is appreciated.
Though I may get to town
you.
recycling tomorrow, so.
Okay, Gary, you're still up for the solid waste recycling
Actually,
facility
this is
grant.
just me. It's more
Oh,
of a
excuse me,
update to
and
the board.
You're off the hook, Gary.
He can stay if he'd like.
You can stick around if you want.
It's not that he's not interested. it's
That's
just
true.
He's not directly interested. So the solid waste recycling grant is, again, doesn't require a resolution at this point, doesn't require any additional appropriation. What it is if you remember, there had been conversation with the Rich Earth Institute about locating a urine recycling facility within our Rockingham, Bellows Falls area to see support that organization. They've had one in Brattleboro for a long period of time. They think that it's a way to remove nitrogen, and I guess through that process, they then return that back to, I guess, farmers and other ways to sort of recycle that waste product. Looked at some locations after talking with the board previously, and the decision was made to try to locate a facility at the existing recycling center. Made a lot of sense. Currently at the recycling center, we have an old wooden shed that houses our food scrap program, as well as some tire recycling. It's kind of a dilapidated structure. It's not in great shape. The goal of this would be to replace that with a more substantial sort of Butler building type of structure, which would then have the ability to have the food scrap recycling on one portion of the building. We would have the urine recycling on the other portion of that building. And then we would have a different facility with just a shed roof and a dumpster for the tires, so that we don't have any mosquito problems or other problems with collecting our tires. So that's really the plan. We'll get back to you as this comes together. There will be some additional board discussion as we if we're successful in that grant. Before we accept it, we'll bring it back to you and make sure that we're all on the same page. But I just wanted to give a heads up because that grant's in progress, and we should hopefully have some understanding of how we stand with that sometime later on in probably May or no later than June. So
As I mentioned once before, that it may create a tax impact. As some of you may know or may not know, the village owns the property down there. They own the land. The town owns the building. And we've been arguing the last couple of years over the tax assessment for the town of Westminster. So any improvement you make could impact our taxes to we pay to Westminster. So just something else to keep in mind, back of your mind.
The town pays taxes on the building?
Yep, and the village pays the land. And they have increased over since we put the two bin.
Is that in the budget somewhere? What, is that
it is in the town budget.
is identified?
Yep,
Yes.
yep, it's in there. It's under Westminster taxes, so it's under taxes. It's not in the recycling section of the budget, so. Okay, review agenda items for the next meeting, which is March 16th. We will do the policies and procedures, which we just postponed till then.
Yes, we'll also have a written oath that Kathleen will have to have each of our new members sign. She did not
Okay.
have it ready for this evening, so I'll make sure that that's on your agenda as well.
And I think there's some sundry appointments that got to be done, such as RLF, BFADC, representatives, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, we'll follow up
So
with
we want
additional
to see if we
appointments.
can find out. I know there's probably about a dozen of them that we
Yep.
go through there, so we might want to
We'll start on
consider
the
those.
appointments.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to put on the agenda?
It's
Chairman, there's a variety of liquor licenses already that are ready to be approved.
Okay.
More? Jeez.
Yeah, I think we're close to the end.
Yeah, it must be every building in downtown.
Peter,
March 17th. is the
Hello,
next
Sue,
one.
is that you?
yeah, don't we usually have Ray come in for new boards to just give a little overview? Board responsibilities, laws?
I had
Yeah,
thought
Ray
about
Masuga, that's it.
scheduling him for mid-April, if that was okay with you guys.
Yeah, Ray usually does that, but it doesn't have to be next week if we want to. We can do it at the next meeting in April. One of the other meetings, maybe that could be one for the work session. Because that sometimes can get a little lengthy because there's a lot of questions that people want to ask. So,
And March 17th is our next meeting, right?
16
16th.
days. Well,
Oh,
we're going to be,
That's the third Wednesday, correct?
the,
Third Tuesday.
No,
Third
we'll do
Tuesday.
okay, the third Tuesday is the 16th.
Yes.
Okay, and the Wednesday meeting then will happen on the following.
Following month.
right,
Okay, thanks.
And the other meeting will be your March 30th meeting. which I completed.
yeah.
And it'll be the first Wednesday in April.
Correct.
Could we, just a suggestion, but could we on that joint board meeting limit the agenda items that affect both boards rather than have both select board items that the select board has to vote on separately versus, and trustee items? I know they've been mixing them in the past, but it's really not particular to that meeting. It's a joint board to discuss both items, so we should have one, because otherwise, depending on what, you could be sitting around waiting for them to vote. They could be waiting around waiting for us to vote.
Yeah,
I don't know how
I've
the rest
seen
of the
that.
board
I've
feels,
watched
but
that, yeah.
I think it should be just joint meeting articles that involve both
Gary's got his
entities.
hand up.
So currently, that's all we have, and I will make note of that and make sure we only put what is for both boards to vote on.
Gary?
So this isn't to vote on, but I think it affects both boards. Both boards jointly invited the Vermont Council on Rural Development to come in. And those task forces wanted to give an update on March 30th to the joint boards. Is that appropriate or should that?
We had three.
No,
task
that's
forces.
appropriate, because that involves both village and town.
There was
Can
one-
you repeat that? I couldn't hear what Gary said.
Hey, Gary, could you come to the microphone? I'm sorry, Sue. He'll come to the microphone. My apologies.
Sorry, I forgot about the whole COVID Zoom thing, right? What is that? So, both boards jointly invited the Vermont Council on Rural Development for the community visit. And the three task forces, we're a year out now from completion of that. And so they want to give a report for the joint boards on March 30th.
Okay, thank you.
And we don't have any, moving along, we don't have any bills and warrants today. You will get those. Sometimes they email those to you electronically ahead of time so you can see them before we actually get the paper form. And that's usually handed around, so if you get them, you can get prepared for questions if you have any.
Shannon,
Okay.
you will chat with the three new ones about if they want to get a town website, email address, correct?
For sure,
Right.
we can actually, I can meet with them and I'll send them individual emails, but town emails also, whether or not you want to receive things via paper, which you can pick up at the fire station, or if you would like things just in virtual packages emailed to you. But I would like to introduce myself and sit down with each of you independently and kind of go over these options, as well as have you fill out the information to get paid for your position.
Is this the time to suggest something for,
Well, I was just gonna go there, but she upstaged me here a little bit on the packet thing. But that's all right. We'll move that on to other business, and seeing as you want a suggestion, we'll
oh,
start
no,
with you.
I was gonna suggest something for the next agenda.
Yep, go ahead.
I'd like to have a little discussion about the town website.
Okay,
Doesn't have to take a long time.
so you want that for the 16th?
Yeah.
Okay.
And a question for Shannon, should we make appointments to come in and see you, Shannon, or what should we do?
So, I work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. I'm in the office Monday through Thursday, but, you guys you're welcome to walk in or make an appointment, either way.
Okay, thanks.
It's usually better, just in all fairness, make an appointment because it's usually
So busy.
chaotic and can be, that way we can dedicate the time and make sure that we can get your specific concerns and block out time. Otherwise, people are coming and it can be a little chaotic. on a
Okay,
Normal business day.
so I'll call you to make an appointment, Shannon.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Or email. Okay.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay, other business, do you have any other business, Bonnie?
Mm-mm.
Elijah? Rick?
Nope.
Okay, just to know, packets. As Shannon mentioned, you can get them either hard copy, which is the paper form, and those are generally, as she said, you can pick them up at the Bells Falls Fire Department. We do that just to save postage,
Mm-hmm.
because some of them can get pretty thick.
Yep.
So you can get them virtually and print them out themselves, or bring your computer in and do with your computer.
Right.
But if you want, either way, let Shannon know so she knows who wants. I prefer paper myself, because otherwise you're using your own paper and your own ink.
Right.
And paper's cheap, but ink is not.
No, he does not.
So,
Okay.
Okay, any other, Sue, do you have anything under other business?
No, I'm all set, other than welcome to the board. I look forward to working with all three of you and Peter, of course.
Thank you, Susan.
Yeah, you
Thanks,
used to
Sue.
me.
Yeah.
It'll be fun going forward. I think we'll work things out and look forward to working with everybody. There is no executive session, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
I second that motion.
Motion been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor would say aye.
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 Motion- Aye. Meeting is adjourned.